Our insider, TSN Hockey Insider, Darren Dreger, joins us on a Friday. Dregs, how we do? You looking good, buddy. Look at you. New goggles there?
No, you know what they are? They're cheaters. They're not even, and it bugs me because I've been to the eye doctor several times, and apparently my eyesight is still fine. I don't need glasses, but because I use them so much with the screens and everything else, it bugs me that. So I'm maybe 18 inches away from my laptop, from the camera. I can barely see you guys. And I want to see you. I mean, you're three good-looking dudes here. So these are just cheaters.
Maybe you need to go back to that eye doctor.
Maybe it's
just that. Get some grease on your camera. What's up?
I set you up for that. No, it's a good weekend ahead. I got up super early this morning and put the pork shoulder on the pit boss. Here we go.
Wow. We were just saying yesterday, it's brown liquor and slow cooking meat season.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm good at that. Apparently, if you start with liquor and then switch to beer, you're okay. But if you do it the other way, then that's when the runaways start to happen.
So it seems to go.
I was chatting with Rhett in a group chat the other day, and we our fantasy football deadline's approaching. People are trying to bribe each other with brown liquor. Rhett had quit brown liquor, but said, I'll give you McCaffrey, and I think I'm back on the brown liquor. It's that time of year. So
yes, absolutely.
'Tis the season.
I ruined one Christmas because of brown liquor. It wasn't my fault. It was the brown liquor. So I had to maybe
take a pause.
Away.
Hiatus.
We got to try it again.
Yeah.
It's just
quitters around here.
Yeah.
Another thing we discussed, I think it was yesterday, is Rhett is the only guy who can ghost the crowd at his own house party.
Let's move.
So where is he? He just went to bed.
I'll go to bed, Jake.
You guys go to bed. You guys
night.
Yeah.
That's fine. So when I moved to this house, the house that I'm in like 4 years or so ago, I purposely rebuilt my entire garage. It's a nice 3-car garage, but I fully insulated it, put the pot lights, the big screen TV. Of course, you've got to have the fridge and all of that stuff, and epoxied the floor. And my wife said, "Why are you doing all this?" Until the first family holiday. And then I wasn't actually in amongst the crowd. I was in the garage. I was watching TV.
Well, man cave.
Yeah, she figured it out.
Yeah. See? The great ones make it look easy, Dregs. The great ones, they just have a way of doing things. I mean, in no particular, we got anything we can talk about today, but we were just talking about Nashville. They're here tonight. They lose in Edmonton in extra time last night. But I was going through notes this morning, and I'm not great. My brain, it takes a long time. And even at the best of times when it's at full clip, it doesn't work very well. The Predators, who are near the bottom of the standings, have the #1 penalty kill and the 12th ranked power play.
Yeah.
So you would think, okay, so you have both sides of the game of hockey kind of figured out, but 5-on-5, 32nd, which is a big reason why they are
32 teams still?
I think there's still 32.
So okay.
That's a tough one.
I don't know what you pull from that, but
I don't know. I saw that stat either yesterday or the day before, and I was like, I actually had to double check because I didn't think that could be real. You know what I mean? But no, it's legit. I mean, I guess if you're Bruno, you're trying to draw the positives out of it. The coaching staff in that, okay, well, special teams is working. So obviously we need to focus 5-on-5. The problem is, and I'm not making excuses for any team, where do you practice that? Like nobody has practice ice anymore. Teams are literally adding drills. Imagine this, Rhett. You're kind of limping out there for a morning skate. You're just trying to get the legs moving a little bit, warm up. Some guys consider it optional. Now teams are throwing drills into their morning skates.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they just because of the condensed schedule with the 4 nations coming up, and then next year it'll be worse. They're taking 14 days out of the calendar. There are going to be stretches next year where teams are playing 5 games in 7 days.
Oh, and we just watched the Flames 5th and 8 in Vancouver on Tuesday. It was awful.
Why is this okay? As a fan and as a player and as a league, why? I mean, I get the Olympic year. Okay, maybe. Yeah. But why is it okay? Because it's we all know it's as physical a sport as you can play, as fast and physical. It has way more games. You know what I mean?
Sure.
NBA guys just decide to take freaking days off left and right.
Load management.
Is that
baby.
that's what's coming? That's what fans are going to get because of this. Because if Connor McDavid decides, you know what, I need a day off, he won't, but because he's a hockey player and he's committed to play. But it's going to change because the culture of hockey is changing, and it's coming. And that's what fans are going to get. You're going to go to a game, you bought a ticket, no Bedard.
Yeah. And those guys, well, we'll see on Bedard, but I mean, those guys are the guys that don't get a break during these major events.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
They're going to be on those teams.
Yeah, I got to come back and play the next game.
Hey, and Pierre LeBrun did something in Insider Trading, but it made me chuckle because Canada and the U.S. went to the National Hockey League and wanted to expand the roster, or whatever the hell they wanted to do. Yep. And the league said, no, you can't. You can't do that. And the reason they wanted to do it is because they're worried that if one of the last cuts books a holiday and somebody gets hurt, they're not, I mean, is that guy giving up his holiday? Well, probably. I mean, some players do it for All-Star, not all, but some do it. But the whole thing, and what's most curious, so the reason I got on this week, and obviously it's a bit of a hot button for you too, Rhett, and you can appreciate it because, okay, you're playing those games, you're traveling. Where's the recovery from a player perspective? I mean, nobody wants to practice other than the coaches and the general managers because, like Bruno, he wants to figure out what the hell is going on 5-on-5 with the Nashville Predators. But this was slipped into a presentation on Tuesday to the general managers. And the only reason I found out about it was one of the GMs was smart enough to write down on a piece of paper. It was a line in a presentation that said, oh, by the way, expect the average number of games next season to go up to like 335 to 3.5 over a 7-day stretch
per week.
All right. And the manager at the time is like, I don't know how we're doing this. So then I go over to the Players Association because, to your point, who's allowing this? They didn't know. PA didn't know. So that now they're going to crunch the numbers and see if that's right. But the PA is hand in hand with the NHL because it's growth of the game. And there has to be an Olympic break. And I don't know why they want to push ahead with the All-Star, but apparently they do. So there's an All-Star.
All-Star break. And Olympics.
Such an easy thing to get rid of, in my opinion. I don't understand again, it has to be a financial benefit to the league or they're not going to do it. But at some point.
But imagine you're going out there for a morning skate and we've already established what the hell that week looks like. You're tired, but some guys, they like the morning skate. It's part of their routine. They just go out for a quick twirl. And now the head coach is firing a couple of practice drills into the equation because you haven't had time to match up and tune up for the night that you're about to face. I mean, that's what they're doing.
Interesting, though, actually. So I don't know if this is a good comparison. I always said it when I retired. Goalies. You're on the road and you play in Colorado and then Phoenix. So you got your starting goalie. You always give him the second day off, but he's traveling anyway, and he's there, and he's at the rink, and he's going through all the hell that you have to go through to do it. Why not play him back-to-back and give him the Tuesday off? And now he's got a 3 or 4 day event.
Or a morning skate off.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so my question would be to everyone is maybe morning skates are the practices.
Yeah, well, they are in certain cases.
Do you know what I mean? Take the day off before.
Yeah.
The whole day. Don't go to the rink.
Yeah.
Actually accomplish something with that.
Yeah.
Give your body that rest. Because like you said, a bunch of guys want to skate in the morning anyway. So if you practice the day before, you're practicing again morning skate. You're on the ice 3 times in less than 24 hours or in about.
Yeah.
Why not give them that day off and actually have a practice? Practices aren't that long. And I'll bet you the conditioning side of things, very, very rarely is there a conditioning aspect to practice nowadays anyway, just because of the schedule. You're probably not. There would have to be, that might be the way it goes. I don't like it. I don't like what you're saying, but I don't like it because they're practicing the day before and then having another practice for a morning skate. If you're only having practice the day of the morning skate, it might be an effective way to
maybe. Well, just to put a cap on it so you guys can fully understand how ridiculous this is. I didn't know this, but it makes sense. So when general managers make requests for what their week looks like when they go through the scheduling with the National Hockey League. The majority of them want to jam up March and April, play as many games as is possible in March and April. And it seems pretty obvious, I guess, that they would want to get tuned up for the playoffs, right? I mean, that's what you're doing, but they don't want to play in October. And I know that the league considered starting next season in late September and then had to squash it essentially because of network commitments, right? ESPN is up to its you-know-what in Major League Baseball. And so that's not going to work. So you're going to see a lot more games in October to start 25-26. They just don't have a choice. They don't have enough calendar days to get it all in.
So, and again, this is because of the Olympics. We're on both opposite ends of the spectrum on this show regarding four nations. Like, I think this is a necessary evil. They need to build best on best. This isn't at all the finished product, but a necessary first step towards a good World Cup of hockey. Is the pinnacle for the league to not even be at Olympics, but to have the World Cup bigger and better than the Olympics? We don't need them, because interrupting your season in the middle is no good. You know, I remember World Cups of hockey being played in September when it had a stage for hockey that, you know, you're not breaking up a season and saying, okay, 2 of your guys on the team are going to be rammed for 2 weeks on the other side of the world. The other 21, they have vacation. Like, it's just the middle of the season is no good.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I don't know what the split is. I was going to say, I bet the majority of NHL owners, not talking managers or coaches, because the managers are part of the decision-making process. So they can sit in the boardrooms with Colin Campbell and Gary Bettman and Bill Daly and all the brass of the National Hockey League and easily get brain warped into thinking, okay, yes, it's best on best worldwide, and that's the Olympics. The players want it. Let's just do it. If you pulled every owner in the National Hockey League, I would bet that especially the guys who have been there for a while would say, no, you're interrupting the momentum. In certain situations, you're messing around with our gates. But the biggest issue, and this happened to the Dallas Stars years ago, you remember? Well, the Islanders too. Think about it. When John Tavares, got hurt, was that Sochi? I think so.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue, aside from the revenue streams and all of that potentially can be interrupted. The owner is sitting there going, okay, well, let me figure this out. I'm sending my best asset. My top earning asset is going to play best on best at the Olympics. I can appreciate individually why that matters, but as a business person, I lose that player and maybe my playoffs and additional gate revenue just go up in smoke. And it's, from an ownership perspective, it's challenging for sure.
It's not as if the IOC is cutting you a check for $10 million to borrow these guys, right?
No. That's a bigger part of it for sure. Bigger part of it.
Are you any more excited for it this week? We'll check it with every week because it's coming up in February. So now we're mid-November. What's the Four Nation excitement meter at for Dregs right now?
Well, I get a daily dose of it because LeBron is like doing play-by-play of everything that isn't happening with Team Canada, right? He's invested in this thing. God love him. And I get the sense from Team Canada management through Pierre that they're just not showing their hand. So we can talk about what's the goaltending group going to look like. Our good pal Andy Strickland from St. Louis is making a case for Colton Parayko on the blue line for Team Canada. I mean, go down the list. Yeah. I mean, it's on and on and on. So I'm intrigued, if not amused by it. I'm going to watch. Of course I am. Canada versus the United States. I mean, I'm in on that all day long. And, let's see. We are going to see, McDavid and Sidney Crosby play on the same team. I mean, who doesn't want that? But I don't know. I don't know that it's going to create the buzz that the league hopes it will. But I do think that it will lead into what's next. And that's a full-fledged World Cup of hockey. And then that'll matter.
I don't like it.
All right.
I just don't.
We just talked
about how the Olympics throws a wrench in it and everything has to tighten up. And all it means to me is you're screwing the NHL product. It's not as good because
there's a risk of that. Yeah.
Yes. Why isn't the risk of the guy getting hurt The Four Nations are a concern. Only at the Olympics we're worried about it. I get that the monies might not be, but if that gate revenue is gone because Connor McDavid breaks his ankle at Four Nations, it doesn't matter whether it's Olympics or Four Nations.
No,
He's
you're right.
out.
You're right. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
fair point.
We used to have a saying here, and it's not breaking news and it's not totally new, but just kind of scanning things. We would call it Wild on a Tuesday. And you would go through your schedule and it just seemed like
Jacques Lemaire.
Going back to Jacques Lemaire and who was Harry Arms, the goalie?
Yeah, Nicholas Backstrom.
Nick Backstrom would come in.
Oh, Wes Walls is back in town.
So,
Wild on a Tuesday.
Wild on a Tuesday. 2-1 or 1-0 or what's
first 2-2 wins? You have to take the points and we'll blow the whistle.
And over the last couple of years, we've kind of talked about that dead cap money, and you've talked about it more than anybody.
$15 million.
Suter and Parise, they signed those big deals and then had to buy them out. They're going to have so much dead money, and they are what they are. They are tied with Winnipeg with 2 regulation losses.
Yeah.
As great as Winnipeg has been, they're right there. 11-2-3. Kaprizov is right behind McKinnon in the scoring. 10 goals, 30 points in 16 games. And I didn't like the John Hines hire when they let Dean Evison go. You go back because it was Boudreau, right? Boudreau was sour when he got gassed, and then Evison was sour because he got gassed.
Yeah.
They're doing a hell of again, Billy Guerin maybe, right? They're doing a hell of a job there, given all of that, because they've got some unreal young talent, and it's Rossi and it's Boldy, and obviously they're an exciting friggin' team now.
Think about that cap pinch. Forced them to trade Fiala. Oh, what a tough spot to be in. They turned it into Brock Faber. Yeah. That's a great deal.
Not a bad player.
Years up here to
I mean, that's what it is. It's never one guy, but imagine the conversation that Billy Guerin would have had with Leopold, the owner of Minnesota Wild, going in there. Oh, by the way, I've got this idea. I want to buy out Parise and Ryan Suter. And we're going to take it right between the eyes for the next few years. But when the dust settles, you're paying players that aren't. But when the dust settles, we're going to come out of it and we're going to be a better team. That's a credit to Billy Guerin. That's a credit to ownership for trusting his management to do what's right. And sometimes you got to spend money to make money. And evidently, Billy Guerin knows what he's doing as an NHL general manager. You guys, I'm sure, pay closer attention than most media and certainly fans do in the East of the Minnesota Wild, obviously because of the conference. Kaprizov is a superstar in the National Hockey League. He just is. And we barely talk about him nationally.
Can you imagine if he was in Montreal?
Oh, my God. You put him in. Yeah. I mean, and how about the deal for Gustafsson? I watched that game last night. I mean, this guy just stops pucks. That's all he does. I mean, Billy Guerin, and that's overall. I'm trying to formulate the thought on because I don't want to oversell Billy. Like every general manager makes mistakes, and to be frank, he hasn't won anything yet. He's made some very bold decisions, but here's what I like best about Billy. I'll get to my point. He's a gunslinger. That's what he is. He knows what the end goal is. The end goal is to win a championship. And he's got to pay close attention to the finances. And he had to convince his owner to take it in the teeth financially and all of that. But at the end of the day, he also knows what he's going to be judged by. And that's, okay, this is a good team. If they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, guess who's going to be held accountable? I'm not saying he's in the crosshairs because he probably isn't, but that's where he'll get to because he's not afraid to do what you have to do sometimes to make your team better.
Final year of that pain, $14.7 million in the Parise Suter buyouts.
Can you just explain what that means?
So essentially, what's the cap this year, Dregs? Like 87 and a half? Yeah. Like they have more than 20% of their cap dedicated to guys going away. Don't be here.
Bonkers.
Stop showing up. We'll keep paying you to go somewhere else. Yeah. And that essentially their internal cap's closer to $70 million than it is $87 million. And they have one of the most competitive hockey clubs in the NHL. Because of the way that Suter and Parise were structured with all the bonuses they had, there are some years that are incredibly punitive on the buyouts and others that are not. This is the last punitive year. Next year, it's less than $2 million. The year after, less than $2 million. Year after, less than $2 million. Right now, it's almost $15 million, and they're good.
But to your point, Dregs, that's quite a. Okay, I'm going to go down the hall and talk to the owner.
I need $100 million to pay people to go away.
Yeah,
not to help our team, to maybe change the culture and get these guys out of here. Like, that's wild.
It is, but look, I mean, the math just didn't slap these guys upside the head one day. I mean, that's why you have a staff, and Billy's a sharp guy, and you would forecast and make sense of the transaction the way it was managed, because you also know when you look at expiring contracts coming up for the Minnesota Wild, they're going to start paying guys. And they're going to start paying guys big numbers coming up.
Year, or is it one more?
One more. And he's a guy that'll slot in between Draisaitl and Pasternak. He's going to be 12, 13, 14 because the cap keeps going up. And honestly, if you're doing an MVP vote today, he's a top 3 guy.
Has to be.
Like, he's right there with McKinnon in points. And his team's played much better than McKinnon's.
And everybody's biased but you listen to some of the veteran players on that Minnesota Wild team talk about Kaprizov. Of course they're biased. They're around him all the time. But it's not hard to find a teammate who says he's the best in the league. And that's saying a lot when you think of what McDavid is capable of. And Sid is still right up there for me. And I mean, go down the list. But, these are guys of Zuccarello go down the list who played a ton of hockey, who recognize the skill set of this guy.
Boy, and you think about that team. I don't think, like you say, in the East, I know you guys don't think about the Minnesota Wild because we're close to it and we don't think about them. They got a great rink. Yeah. It's a great atmosphere. I've been to a game there. The crowd, obviously, it's a state of hockey. The rink's sold out. They've got a great team, solid ownership.
Yeah.
It should be one of the prizes of the entire league.
They've missed one thing. They haven't had a playoff run, right? Yeah. You look back, it was probably since like Rolison, like it's been ages since they've gone deep.
Yeah.
If you want to make waves, you kind of got to be relevant in the spring. Carolina is an even more forgettable market, but because they've been in the Final Four and the Final 8 so often, they're front of mind with us. But that's the only thing they're missing in my mind.
Yeah.
What about Carolina? Looks like they did the right thing by hanging on to Natchez.
Oh my God. Like that guy, there's another player, right? I do the show with Ferraro twice a week, and he loves Marty Natchez. Loves him more this year because of what we're seeing. But, he reminded me the other day as we were talking about the Carolina Hurricanes of how Natchez was frustrated, right? He didn't think that Brendan Moore was giving him enough ice. And then it gets down to that old, the coach says you want more ice, you got to play better. Well, give me more ice and I'll produce more. I mean, it's that back and forth. But they found the sweet spot with Marty Natchez. And I'm more impressed with the Carolina Hurricanes this season than I think I've been in a long, long time, because I didn't think that they were going to fall off the map this year. I have too much respect for Brendan Moore and the talent that they have there. But given the pieces that were marched out, I did feel like there was going to be some growing pains, that there was going to be a shift. And for the most part, there really hasn't been. There hasn't been. I still wonder about their goaltending. Maybe that's unfair in the moment, given how collectively they're playing. But the one thing that continually impresses me, and again, I'm just giving all the credit to Rod Brindamore. They play the same way. It doesn't matter if it's the first line or the fourth line, man. They're just north south, get going. Everything is about pace. Everything is about the forecheck. Stay physical, grind them down, and they play that way to a T. And that's impressive because there's some pretty good players. There are teams out there with really, really good coaches, but coaches that aren't able to get that message delivered or heard on a consistent basis.
The Natchez, public stuff where his dad came out, there was a lot of he could be a center. Like, is this a fit for the Flames? Oh, if he's a young centerman, you could lock him in. The ask was high. He's not playing center, but he's been incredibly dynamic. And that's, as Craig Connor moves forward, it's all about, can I find young center? Can I find young center? You got a 35-year-old back on 34-year-old Kadri and a bunch of question marks after that. I don't know. Do you see, when he's producing like this, he's just a winger now? He's taking 30 draws all year. That's a winger.
Yeah, I still think it's a little bit early for that. I mean, he's still relatively young, right? But he's got a lot more to go. I probably wouldn't tinker with success. And end of the day, let's just back up here a little bit. What's the statute of limitations on dad? Like, honest to God, like,
yeah.
Is it bantam hockey? Like what? Like at what point does?
I think it go away. It actually apparently gets worse. Yeah.
Like seriously, I get it. I understand it. I mean, you never stop being the parent, and you never stop wanting what's best for your kid.
That kind of looks right.
Huh?
Like, you might have been right.
Dad looks right. It's like play this guy in the top 6. He'll produce. Well, now it's happened. Chicken egg, I get, but like Dad wasn't wrong.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But maybe, just leave Marty to have that conversation with his coach. How about just leave that to the player and the coach and the manager? Yeah. And if you want to talk your son off the ledge after every game, okay, Warner, that's your job. That's
Warner does not agree with you whatsoever.
You got to be on these coaches, Dreg.
Sassy.
Yeah. Squeaky wheel.
Hey, I'm not saying I wasn't. My kid played a pretty high level of hockey, and there were some conversations or text messages that if I could have a mulligan, I would take it. I would take it.
What about the 24-hour rule? Did you use the 24-hour rule?
Off?
Yeah, for the most part.
Did you ever let him?
Seem to matter.
Did you ever let him know I'm going to take the 24-hour rule? So look forward to hearing from me.
I'm going to tell you a quick story here. So I was doing the Winnipeg Anaheim series, whatever year that was. Winnipeg got swept by the Ducks, and my son was in tryouts, AAA tryouts here in Whitby, and I mean. It's a weird setup here in Whitby. I don't know if they've changed in Ontario, but the tryouts are in spring as opposed to when they should be in fall when the kids have grown and all of this. And so my wife has to take my kid, and he was coming off a pretty good year, so he shouldn't have been on the bubble. But one of the assistant coaches tipped me off and said, hey, I'm just giving you the heads up here. And so I go to send another buddy a text, and I said, I think that C word is going to cut him today. So, and I thought I was sending it to a buddy and then to my wife. So, make sure you're there. Well, I sent it to the head coach.
So this C word you're referencing.
Yeah.
Coach. C is coach.
Yeah, coach.
That coach.
Anyway.
Words used on the show very liberally. Feel free to
let it out.
He made the team, and in fairness, it was
there you go.
Yeah, it was a bit of an icebreaker. It was a bit of an icebreaker because the guy said, hey, well, like, what made you think that he was on the bubble? Well, now I can't sewer the assistant coach. I don't know. I'm traveling. I'm stressed out.
It's funny. The people closer to the hockey industry, you'd be like, okay, they'll be more rational.
Yeah.
I worked in Penticton for 4 years. We must have had like 15 former players' kids roll through. They're the same psycho hockey dads as the guys that never picked up a stick. It is wild. Like dads cannot get this. Like we need to come up with some sort of dad hockey lobotomy where we're removing part of your brain so you can be rational about your children playing sports.
Yeah, good luck. You'll be a bazillionaire if you can come up with that.
Jeez. Who was the worst? Carl Lindros was legendary.
Oh God, was he? Yeah,
for being hands-on.
Michael Nylander's not been good.
I could give you 15 names. And I'm not going to, but there's some pretty big name players whose dads are pretty involved.
It's one of that guy's in Toronto, right? One of those kids.
Yeah, of course.
The much maligned guy in his last year of his deal.
Okay. All kidding aside, it's Paul Marner. That's who you're talking about. And the reason I mention his name is because when I was reporting on Marner's last contract extension, I got a chuckle out of it. But Leafs fans were relentless. So every time I tweet something that was Marner friendly in the negotiation updates, they'd call me Paul because I'd get the thanks, Paul, because I thought I was doing Paul Marner's work.
Yeah, Marner PR team. We never knew. That's amazing. No, how does that pay?
I had no idea.
Not well enough.
So walk us through this. So the pit boss, how much time, what are we, when the meat comes off, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's a bit of an ordeal, but I enjoy it. I probably have another 3 more hours of the smoke. I'm going to get it to about 200. Okay. And then, and I've been basting with apple juice and a little bit of apple cider on the hour. So I'll get it to about 180 and then I'll wrap it and then I'll bring it up to about 200, 205, then shut her down and let her rest for about 45 minutes. And then it's just fall off the bone. And then I dump a little, what is it called? Sweet Ray's barbecue.
Baby Ray's.
Sweet Baby Ray's.
It's a shovel's favorite.
And then you get the meat sweats for the rest of the night. That's genius.
Settle into the couch.
Yeah, see, I was going to ask you what was up for the weekend. I think it's pretty clear.
Bills or Chiefs?
Chiefs.
Argos or Blue Bombers?
Sorry, buddy. What's that? Argos or
Blue Bombers?
I will never in my life cheer for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And I don't care, but I'm saying Argos.
Argos.
Okay. Sorry, feels like there might be something there. To have a deep-seated emotion like that seems awfully. But maybe
rural
next
Saskatchewan boy.
I was going to say, where's he from again?
Yeah.
Maybe next week we'll get into it. Good luck with that meat. Appreciate you, pal.
All right, fellas. Have a great weekend.
There you go.
See ya.
Darren Dreger. Good guy.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.